You are safe where you are, warm beneath your blanket, and there is nothing you need to do except listen. But in the next few breaths, your mind may drift somewhere strange and distant, to a quiet German barracks before dawn. In August 1914, just before an ordinary morning begins to reshape an entire life. You only have to notice the room as it comes into focus around you, the dark beams above, the narrow window holding the earliest gray of morning, the straw mattress beneath you, settling with a faint, dry whisper every time you move. You open your eyes there slowly. The air is cool enough to sharpen the tip of your nose. It smells of wool, leather, old wood, and the thick warmth of many men sleeping in one place. Somewhere near your feet, someone turns over with a sigh. A few bunks away, a sleeper murmurs into his blanket. Then from outside, a bell strikes once, flat and metallic, and the room seems to listen to it before obeying. Blankets pull back, boot soles touch the floorboards, a buckle knocks softly against a bed frame. No one speaks loudly yet. The day has begun, but only just, and all movement is wrapped in that drowsy softness that comes before routine gathers speed. You remain still a little longer. It is only that something about this life feels as if it was waiting for you, just beyond the edge of sleep. The coarse blanket over your legs, the narrow bunk, the folded clothes, the sense that if you reach out, your hands will know what to do before your thoughts can catch up. And when you finally sit up, that is exactly what happens. The blanket slips aside, your boots are there, your coat is there, your cap is there. Everything has been arranged with a practical neatness that leaves no room for doubt. This is not the confusion of waking in a strange place after travel. It is the steadier, stranger feeling of waking inside a role that has already been prepared for you. Around you, other men are dressing with sleepy efficiency. One rubs his face and pulls on his tunic in the same motion. Another sits on the edge of his bunk, lacing his boots without ever fully opening his eyes. Someone laughs quietly at a joke, too tired to travel very far. Their ease is almost contagious. So is their certainty. That certainty hangs over the room more heavily than the smell of wool. The war has begun. Everyone knows it. Yet the knowledge does not move like dread here. It moves like purpose, like momentum, like the start of a difficult journey that still seems clean in the imagination, because it has not yet been lived through. By now you are standing. The boards feel cool beneath your soles for one brief second before the boots go on. They are broken in and already shaped to your feet in a way that is unsettlingly intimate. You dress piece by piece, trousers first, then the tunic, heavy and plain, the color somewhere between gray and green. The cloth scratches lightly at your wrists. The collar sits high at your neck. You fasten the buttons one after another, then the belt, then the cap. Across the barracks, a kettle is being emptied into tin cups. The drink is dark enough to resemble coffee in dim light, though the smell gives it away at once. Roasted grain, chicory, something bitter and almost burnt. Still, the warmth rising from the cup is welcome in the cool hour before sunrise. A piece of dark bread follows, dense, slightly sour, dry at the edges. You eat slowly, and while you do, the voices around you begin to sharpen. They are talking about trains, about Belgium, about France, about how quickly the whole thing will be over. One man, hardly older than 20, says the leaves will still be on the trees when everyone comes home again. Another claims Paris as if it were already folded into a pocket map. Before Christmas, somebody says, the words are casual, almost cheerful. They drift through the room with the steam from the cups and settle so naturally into the air that no one laughs at them. Before Christmas, as if war could be entered, and left on schedule. And this is where the morning tightens its hold, because the true hook of a story like this is not only that you have awakened as a German soldier in 1914, it is that you have awakened among men who still believe history will be brief and kind to them. They do not yet know what mud can become, or hunger, or waiting, but you, listening from the far side of time, feel the shadow of it already. The room is calm, the future is not. Outside, the sky is slowly becoming visible. When the order finally comes to move, it is not shouted in panic. It arrives in the ordinary tone of men who have repeated it in training, until repetition itself became comfort. You pick up the rest of your equipment, a rifle, long and solid, with weight enough to change the way your arm hangs, a bayonet that pulls at your belt with blunt seriousness, a canteen, a bread bag, a few personal things reduced to what can be carried. When you step outside, a yard is washed in the hesitant light of dawn. Breath rises faintly from men and horses. Gravel presses under boots. Rows are forming. Belts are straightened. Straps are pulled tighter. Metal touches metal with small, disciplined sounds. And still there is something almost gentle about it. The air on your face, the pale color of the sky, the living closeness of the men beside you. So you settle the rifle, you square your shoulders, you take your place among the others, and for one suspended moment, before the trains, before the roads, before the first true crack in the illusion, the world still appears arranged into neat lines. Men here, destinations there. Victory somewhere ahead, waiting to be reached by discipline and speed. It is not true, but it is still believable. Stay with that feeling for just a little longer. The rough sleeve at your wrist, the cool yard, the weak, bitter taste at the back of your tongue, the quiet rise and fall of your breathing among the breathing of other men. In another moment, the world will widen. There will be streets, stations, crowds, music, promises, distance. But for now, everything is still contained inside this one barracks morning, this one threshold between sleep and marching, between innocence and knowledge, between the comfort of routine and the first long step into history. And all the while, you move toward the border, toward Belgium, toward the neat line on paper that officers have spoken of as if it were merely a door to be opened. The first days are a blur of stations and waiting and marching again. The pack grows heavier with each mile because your shoulders are still learning it. The wool keeps in heat. Sweat gathers under the straps. Dust settles on boots, then on trousers, then on everything. Yet morale holds. Men joke while walking. They still speak of the capital they will soon see. They still imagine cafes, captured flags, stories to tell. But there is a difference now. Subtle at first, the farther you go, the less the roads feel like roads leading somewhere known, and the more they feel like a corridor, narrowing. Officers speak more sharply. Maps come out more often. Villages are passed through more quickly. The horizon no longer seems open. Crossing into Belgium does not feel triumphant. It feels tense. Too many eyes watch from doorways. Too many curtains twitch. Too many streets hold the silence of people who have decided not to greet you. Rumors move through the ranks in fragments. Civilians firing from windows. Bridges sabotaged. Resistance stronger than expected. You do not know what is true. You only know that the easy mood of the train is thinning. Pulled apart by distance, fatigue, and the first real signs that other people exist inside this war and do not share your side's certainty. The first time you hear bullets pass close, they sound less like the loud cracks you expected, and more like something swift and angry tearing the air beside your head. One moment, the column is moving along a road, bordered by low stone walls and trees, and the next men are dropping, stumbling, flattening themselves wherever they can. Commands rise. Someone shouts for cover. Another voice calls for stretcher bearers before the firing has even settled into a pattern. The world that had been made of roads and fields and marching songs suddenly breaks into fragments of dirt. Smoke, stone, sweat, fear. You do what everyone does. You get low. You grip the rifle. You look for where the others are looking. You become, in a matter of seconds, more animal than thinker. It is impossible afterward to say exactly how long the engagement lasts. Time in such moments does not move properly. It bunches, stretches, snaps. There is only loading and aiming, and the hard push of the rifle butt against your shoulder. There is only the strange flatness in your ears after each shot. There is only the impulse to keep doing what training told your body to do. Because the mind, left alone, would simply stare. A man close to you goes down with a cry that is cut short into a gasp. Another crawls backward with mud on his sleeves. Dust leaps from the wall ahead of you. Leaves shake loose from a branch overhead. The road you had been walking like any other road now seems impossibly exposed. Beside you, the cheerful man from the barracks is no longer cheerful. His face is pale beneath the grime, and he presses both hands against his thigh where blood has darkened the cloth. He tries to say something light, something dismissive, but the words come out thin. You drag him behind a low wall with another soldier, and in that small effort, in the drag of his weight, in the warmth of blood against your fingers, some last bright illusion goes out. There is no grand thought attached to the moment, no neat sentence, only the blunt arrival of reality. This is not a parade with interruptions. This is not a short inconvenience on the way to glory. This is a machine built for metal and panic and distance, and you are inside it now. By evening, the firing has shifted elsewhere, and the road belongs to neither side in any clean sense. The small action is over. Though the war is not, men count one another in low voices. Water is passed around. A farmhouse is taken for the night. Its owner's gone. The table still set as if an ordinary meal had once expected to be eaten there. You sit on the floor with your back against the wall and discover that your hands shake when there is no longer anything to do with them. No one talks loudly. The room is full of exhaustion, but also of a new restraint, a kind of inward turning. The talk of Christmas has not vanished, but it no longer fills every silence. You sleep in your boots because taking them off feels too complicated. Your body aches in places you did not know could ache. Each small sound in the house lifts you halfway awake. A door settling, a horse outside, someone turning over on the floorboards, and beneath all of it, like a second pulse, the memory of gunfire repeating behind your eyes. Morning comes too soon, and with it more marching. Always forward, the officers say. Always onward, but the pace of the advance is no longer the pace of confidence. It is the pace of necessity. Towns are entered and left. Roads clog with men, wagons, horses, field kitchens, ambulances, artillery. The weather remains warm, but less kindly so. The sun presses down on wool and leather. Dust cakes the inside of your mouth. Blisters form, burst, harden. You begin to feel that war may be made mostly of feet. Then France. Then a deeper push. Then the strange and growing sense that you are being stretched farther from the world you understood than any train could have taken you. The names change. The language around you changes. The smell of the earth after rain changes. And yet the days become eerily similar, held together by marching, halting, sleeping where told, eating what is given, and trying not to think too far ahead. For a while, the momentum itself seems enough to carry belief. You are moving west. Paris is still spoken of. Maps are still pointed at. Officers still keep their urgency sharpened around the idea that one more effort, one more push, one more day will do it. Then comes the check, the slowing, the crack in the script everyone had been reciting. Near the Marne, the forward motion that had seemed almost natural begins to fail. Counterattacks gather, orders change, confusion enters. The enemy does not simply dissolve, artillery grows more constant. Men who had marched upright now move bent and wary. The roads no longer feel like arrows aimed at victory. They feel like paths that can be lost. And then one day, after weeks of being told to go on, you are told to go back. Retreat is a different kind of fatigue. Advance at least carries its own rough hope. Retreat carries dust and bitterness, and questions no one answers. You move with the others northward and eastward, giving up ground that had cost too much to take. No one sings now. No one talks about being home by the holidays. The summer certainty that once filled the train carriage has leaked away, almost without ceremony. The land settles into autumn. Rain begins, and with the rain comes the trench. At first it is hardly worthy of the name, a scrape in the earth, a line of cover, a hurried attempt to make the ground itself stand between your body and the next shell. But hurried work deepens. Mud walls are cut sharper, fire steps are built, sandbags appear, planks are laid down where they can be spared. Duckboards float over puddles that soon become channels, and then pools. You dig because there is no choice. You dig because the earth is wet and heavy, and resists the shovel, but accepts it eventually. You dig because the men across from you are doing the same. You dig because the open field has become death, and the ground, miserable as it is, offers shape, edge, a little protection. Soon, the line extends farther than the eye can comfortably imagine. Not a battlefield in the old sense, with movement and flanks and clear endings, but a wound across the land. It bends, it doubles, it connects to communication trenches and support lines and hidden storage recesses. It acquires habits, then rules, then a whole reluctant architecture. Your section is improved week by week. Wood supports go in. Drainage channels are cut. A dugout is hollowed into the side. Then strengthened, then made a little less temporary than anyone first intended. By the time cold weather settles in, the trench is no longer a pause in the war. It is the war, in daylight, under a pale sky, and rain that seems to have no source and no end. You stand in mud and begin to understand that survival may depend less on courage than on routine. There are times for sentry duty, times for repairing parapets, times for carrying rations forward, times for scraping filth from boots and weapons, times for sleeping if sleep can be found. The body adapts before the mind does. It learns where to place a foot, how to hunch inside a coat to conserve warmth, how to eat quickly. And once that routine takes hold, something curious happens. After the shock of battle and the sting of retreat, the trench brings with it not comfort, but a kind of dreadful predictability. You know where the walls are, you know where to duck, you know how long the route is from your firing position to the dugout. You know which corner floods worst and which plank shifts underweight. The line may be dangerous, but it is legible, and legibility, after chaos, has its own dark relief. So the days pass, and then the weeks, and then, without anyone meaning it to, the trench becomes ordinary. At dawn, men climb to the fire step, because dawn is when attacks like to come. Mist sits over the broken ground between the lines. Beyond it, perhaps 80 yards away, is another trench with another set of men who are likely as tired and wet and unwilling as you are. Rifles crack now and then into the gray, not always to hit anything, often just to remind the other side that you are there. Later comes breakfast, if it can be called that. Bread, coarse, and dense, a spread if there is one, soup if the field kitchen made it up safely, coffee substitute, always thinner than memory. Occasionally a bit of sausage, occasionally something almost fresh. There are days when the food seems adequate, and others when you find yourself thinking of simple civilian meals with an ache sharper than hunger. Then work, always work, repairing damage from the night, bailing out water, strengthening wire, clearing debris, checking rifles, checking gas masks, carrying ammunition, carrying messages, carrying the day from one end of itself to the other. If the shelling is light, the hours lengthen strangely. Boredom settles over everything with the stubborn density of fog. Men led us home in pencil stubs, balancing paper on their knees. Some shave, some pick lice from seams, some tell the same story they told last week, because repeating it is easier than beginning a new one. A card game starts and stops. Someone dozes in a corner. Someone stares at nothing. The trench teaches you that fear is not always loud. Often it is quiet and patient. It sits beside boredom and waits. Then a shell lands close, or a sniper takes someone at the parapet, or a flare lifts the night into sudden false daylight, and every shadow becomes suspicious. And for a few minutes, the whole body floods with heat and readiness, and the world narrows to inches. Then it passes, and somehow, absurdly, the routine resumes. Rain deepens everything. The floor becomes a churned brown paste that clings and sucks at boots. Water gathers in low places and never quite leaves. Socks stay damp, skin whitens and softens and begins to break down. Feet are inspected, dried when possible, rubbed, wrapped, cherished more than pride ever would have guessed. A man can endure much, but not indefinitely on ruined feet. The smell becomes its own weather. Wet cloth, tobacco, cheap soap when there is any mud, latrines, grease from rifles, and beneath it, at times impossible to ignore, the sweet, sick edge of death lingering over the ground, in front of the wire where no one can safely go for the bodies. Rats grow bold in such places. They move through the trench after dark with the assurance of creatures who know human beings are tired. You hear them before you see them, scratching, scurrying, a sudden thump. Sometimes one runs over a boot, a blanket, a sleeping hand. Men curse softly, throw something, then lie back down because outrage consumes more energy than trench life can spare. Eyes are worse in their own way because they are intimate. They live in the seams. They insist. You scratch at your collar, at your waistband, at your wrists. Everyone does. It becomes such a common movement that you stop noticing it, except in new arrivals, who scratch with surprise instead of resignation. Cold follows rain, and then cold becomes the great fact of life. Fingers stiffen, metal bites the skin. The dugout below ground, dug deep and timbered as best it can be, starts to feel almost luxurious simply because it blocks the wind. You descend into it after hours above, and the close air, thick with men and wool and damp earth, feels better than fresh air. A candle burns low, a lantern smokes, someone has carved initials into one plank, someone else has hung a postcard from home where everyone can see it and pretend for a minute that color still belongs in the world. At Christmas, a strangeness drifts over the line. It begins as sound, singing from the far side in a language you do not speak every day, but can still recognize in shape and melody. Then a reply from your side, not official, not ordered, just voices carrying across frozen ground, because the season itself seems to have remembered something men had forgotten. For a few hours, the war loosens. Greetings are called. Small things are traded. Faces are seen. Not only uniforms. There is laughter too quiet to be quite joy, and too real to be entirely dangerous. Then command returns. Rules return. The line tightens again. The war continues. Embarrassed perhaps by its own brief softness. After that, every year seems to have its new method of suffering. Gas enters the war, not like a weapon of thunder, but like something worse, something drifting and patient. You first hear of it before you fully understand it. Then you see what follows in its wake and understand enough. The mask becomes as essential as the rifle. Drills multiply. Men learn to read the wind. Alarms can bring an entire trench awake in seconds. You fumble straps in darkness, heart pounding, praying the seal is right, praying the thing over your face that smells of rubber and chemicals will stand between your lungs. And whatever is moving through the night, shelling grows more skilled, more frequent, more industrial. The old image of war as courage meeting courage begins to feel childish. Courage is still needed, yes, but so are sandbags, drainage, timing, logistics, luck, and the ability to remain calm while the sky itself seems to have turned against you. Years pass inside this machinery. 1915 slides toward 1916, 1916 toward 1917, and your body changes with the line. The young recruit who arrived with bright talk and upright posture is gone. In his place is someone leaner, quieter, more deliberate. You know how to listen for incoming shells and roughly judge where they will land. You know when to keep your head down. You know which officer's optimism is to be ignored and which sergeant's silence means trouble. You know that survival is not noble most of the time. It is repetitive. It is practical. It is unromantic. A day in the trench by 1917 begins before dawn in the dugout, where air hangs low and sour, and men breathe like a single exhausted creature. A watch is checked in the weak light. Helmets are lifted from pegs. Straps are tightened. The stair up to the trench mouth is climbed with the body still half asleep. The world outside is cold and colorless. Mist sits over no man's land. Across from you lies another trench hidden, except where the wind thins the fog. Stand to. Always stand to. The rifle rests in your hands. Your fingers know the wood grain beside you. Another sentry wipes his nose on a sleeve, stamps one foot, squints ahead. No one expects a grand attack every morning, yet everyone behaves as if one might come, because that is how routine and fear share space. When daylight proves uneventful, men stand down in stages. A pot of something hot appears. Bread is broken. A corporal assigns tasks. There is wire to inspect. A collapsed section to shore up. Water to pump from a sump. Sandbags to move if mail has arrived. The lucky ones sit with envelopes in their hands for a moment before opening them, delaying pleasure because delayed pleasure lasts longer. You write home often enough to maintain the shape of yourself there, though never honestly enough to transfer the truth. One cannot write the trench as it is, not past the censors, and perhaps not past the self. So you write about weather, about hoping the harvest was decent, about wondering whether the old chestnut tree in the yard still loses its leaves too early, about seeing stars on clear nights. You say little of the man who was buried, 2 traverse turns down last week, or the way you woke with your gas mask already in your hands before the alarm even sounded, or the fact that some nights you can no longer remember your room at home as clearly as you can picture the boards of the dugout ceiling. The home front arrives in fragments. Food is scarcer there now, they say. Queues longer, substitutes everywhere, women doing work once done by sons and husbands. Children thinner, an entire nation learning the arithmetic of shortage. You carry those letters in your breast pocket for days sometimes, taking them out in quiet moments, reading the same lines again, letting ordinary details do the work no grand declarations can manage. A mention of rain in your hometown, a neighbor's cow calving early, a church repair postponed, such things become a kind of rope thrown across distance. Nights remain the most charged. Work parties go out under darkness to repair wire, improve listening posts, or fetch the wounded when anyone is deemed fetchable. Darkness comforts and threatens in equal measure. It hides you from the enemy, but it also hides the enemy from you. Flowers bloom without warning, washing the torn ground in white light that makes every body freeze where it stands. Then darkness returns, thicker than before. On one such night, you are part of a wiring party. The trench behind you feels almost home-like compared to the open ground ahead. You move bent low, carrying coils and stakes, following a corporal who knows the route by memory. The mud sucks at your boots, barbs catch on your sleeves. Hammer blows are muffled as much as possible. Everyone works fast without looking fast, because haste creates noise, and noise attracts bullets. For long minutes, nothing happens except a quiet labor of men trying not to exist. Then a flare goes up too near. The ground becomes a stage. Every strand of wire gleams, every helmet edge shines, and from the far trench comes the sudden slicing burst of machine gun fire. There is no bravery in what follows, only flattening yourself into the earth and willing it to become deeper. Bullets pass with the hideous precision of things not meant for argument. Someone cries out in the darkness. Another man swears under his breath. Time stops being made of minutes and becomes made of waiting for the next burst, not to strike where you are. Eventually, the light fades, the firing thins. Orders come as whispers. Crawl back slowly. Leave what must be left. You return to the trench coated in mud, hands stinging from cuts, lungs full of cold air and relief too exhausted to feel like relief. A cigarette is passed from one man to another. No one talks much. Above, the stars are hidden. Below, the trench walls hold. After terror, the narrow ditch in the earth feels impossibly safe. And this is one of the quiet secrets of war for sleep. How quickly the mind can begin to call even misery by the name of shelter. The trench also teaches you to love small improvements with a gratitude that would have seemed absurd in another life. A dry pair of socks can lift an entire evening. A deeper duckboard means one less hour with numb feet. A dugout shelf built from scavenged wood feels almost elegant. A proper mug, a spoon not bent, a blanket less damp than usual. These things become luxuries not because they are fine, but because they create edges in a world that wants to dissolve into one long discomfort. Sometimes, during quieter stretches, the men turn the trench into something nearly domestic. A nook is swept clear of loose dirt. A crate becomes a seat. A bit of mirror is fixed to a post. One man acquires an old kettle and guards it as though it were family silver. Another keeps a stub of pencil and offers to write letters for those whose schooling was thin. Someone else produces a mouth organ and, on rare evenings when shelling is distant, draws out tunes so soft they seem less played than remembered. Those are dangerous moments in their own way, because comfort invites memory, and memory can ache more sharply than cold. Yet they are precious too. In them, the line ceases for a little while to be only a military position and becomes a place where human beings insist on remaining human. The weather writes its own chapters over the trench. Autumn is wet, but winter is intimate in its cruelty. Frost hardens mood into ruts that bite through souls. Breath hangs in front of every face. Water in tins skins over with ice. Rifles feel colder than reason. Men wake with collars stiff and mustaches jeweled white. The horizon looks cleaner in winter, but only because life has been stripped down to bare forms. Spring, when it comes, does not arrive as joy. It arrives as thaw. And thaw in the trench means collapse. Walls slump, dugout steps soften, duckboards tilt. Everything that winter locked into place begins to move again. But downward, inward, messily. Earth slides, water returns. The line must be rebuilt in pieces while men stand in it. Summer has another mood entirely. Flies multiply. The smell deepens. Heat presses the trench until every garment feels overused and every movement carries sweat with it. Yet summer also brings long evenings and a different kind of sky. And under those skies, men sometimes speak more freely. Not because they are hopeful, but because warmth loosens the jaw. You learn who talks at night and who goes inward. You learn who tells stories from before the war as if speaking them aloud keeps those places alive. One man always describes a river near his home and the way the reeds looked in late afternoon. Another remembers a bakery, but always the smell first, never the bread itself, as if smell can travel where substance cannot. A farm boy from the north speaks about horses with such tenderness that everyone goes quiet. A former clerk knows how to imitate officers and can make even the most exhausted men smile. These details do not end the war. They do not even interrupt it for long, but they create pockets of life inside it, and pockets are what you live by. Mail days alter the trench more than bombardments sometimes do. When post comes through, the line changes character at once. Men who were slouching stand straighter. Faces sharpen with attention. A bundle of letters can make 50 yards of trench feel younger, almost civilized. Names are called out. Some men answer at once. Others wait, trying not to reveal how much they care. A few names are not called, and those men shrug too casually, then turn away with a look that lingers only if you know to notice it. Your own letters vary. Some are cheerful beyond honesty. Some are so plain they become touching without intending to be. One might mention the state of the potato crop, another a cousin's wedding postponed, another a child back home learning to walk, another the price of flour rising again. Almost none say directly what all of them carry underneath, which is the wish that the receiver will remain alive long enough to read the next one. Packages, when they arrive, are miracles in paper and string. A piece of sausage wrapped in cloth, a knitted scarf, a cake dense with memory, a newspaper weeks old but devoured anyway, a little jar of jam too precious to open at once. Men become careful around packages. They hold them in their hands before untying them. They let the smell of home escape slowly. Even those who receive nothing take part by watching. By sharing in the temporary transformation of trench faces into the faces of sons, brothers, husbands, sweethearts. Then there are the days with no letters and no packages. Those days feel flatter. Work seems heavier. The trench walls look more final. It is remarkable how much a few sheets of paper can hold back to spare. Not all danger announces itself with noise. Sometimes danger is simple, carelessness born of fatigue. A man forgets to duck in the wrong place. Another lights a cigarette where a sniper can see the ember. Someone leaves a gas mask unfastened after inspection. Another falls asleep too deeply on watch and wakes with disgrace written across his face. How often punishes the body not for cowardice, but for being made of flesh instead of iron. You become attentive in ways civilian life never required. You notice subtle changes in the line, a silence where there should have been routine firing, extra movement opposite, a smell on the wind, the quality of distant engines, the angle at which officers hold themselves when news is bad, the face of the cook when rations have been cut again. Knowledge accumulates in tiny fragments until instinct seems like a kind of second skin. The enemy remains both near and abstract. At times you hear them laugh. At times you hear a shovel. At times a song drifts across after dark, or a shouted insult, or a question no one answers. During raids, or after bombardments, you see them more clearly and are reminded, unwillingly perhaps, that the trench opposite is not a mechanical device, but another ditch full of cold, hungry men trying to outlast this same season of history. That awareness does not make the war gentler, but it adds another layer of sadness to it. The front becomes a mirror held at a hateful angle. Occasionally you are rotated back for brief rests behind the line. Rest is too generous a word for it, yet compared to the trench, even a village barn or a barnyard with steaming soup feels removed from the edge of the world. Behind the front, one notices things the trench erases. Trees not shattered, a woman hanging laundry, geese crossing a lane, church bells sounding without being mistaken for alarms. Men en restbile sleep with an abandon almost embarrassing to witness. They wash properly, if water allows. They write longer letters. They complain more openly, as if distance from danger releases speech from caution. And yet, after a few days, sometimes less, you are sent forward again. The road back to the trench always feels shorter than the road away from it. The line receives you like a thing that had merely lent you out. Soon enough, the old routines fit over you again like wet cloth. When shells fall heavily, the whole trench becomes an instrument played by concussion. Boards jump, earth sifts downward, lamps swing. Men crouch where they can, shoulders hunched, waiting out the barrage by counting impacts or pretending not to count. There are no good places under serious artillery, only less exposed ones. A deep dugout helps, yes, but every man knows the stories of direct hits. Safety in war is rarely absolute. It is statistical. During one bombardment that lasts most of a day, you find yourself in a lower chamber with several others, while the roof dusts your caps and the timbers speak in small, strained creaks. No one panics. That would use up air, energy, dignity. Instead, men sit on bunks or ammunition boxes and pass the time in the quietest ways possible. One mutters over a letter he has nearly memorized. Another peels an apple saved for too long. Another cleans spectacles that do not need cleaning. Outside, the barrage walks up and down the line. Inside, the human need to make some order out of waiting continues stubbornly. When at last you emerge, the trench has changed shape again. A parapet torn, a corner caved in, a duckboard splintered, a section of wire gone. There is always work after shelling, just as there is weather after weather. It is this constancy of repair that grinds men down as much as fear does. Nothing remains done. Everything returns. Still, even repetition has gradations. There are soft evenings in the dugout when someone shares a memory of summer beer gardens, or lake water, or first dances. And for 10 minutes, everyone sits inside a world where no maps need redrawing. There are dawns when the mist over no man's land glows pink for a moment, and the churned ground looks almost beautiful if one forgets what lies in it. There are afternoons when the mail is good, the soup is hot, and the shelling goes elsewhere, and such an afternoon can feel like a holiday smuggled into the line. These are the true hidden loops of trench life: tension, routine, relief, boredom. Tension again. The body cannot remain at alarm forever, so it descends into the mundane whenever it can. That descent, repeated enough, becomes its own narcotic. In that sense, the trench does not only exhaust, it also hypnotizes. You see this most clearly in newcomers. They arrive with eyes still too open, with uniforms too clean, with the old civilian habit of expecting explanations. The trench takes that from them quickly. After a week, they move more quietly. After a month, they know where the worst mud lies and how to fold themselves into a corner for sleep. After 3 months, if they are still there, they have either become part of the rhythm or been damaged by it in ways visible and invisible. There is a sadness in watching youth disappear without ceremony. A fresh face becomes hollow. A quick laugh becomes rare. A man who once wrote to his fiancée daily now writes once a week because words have grown heavier. Yet there are also those who surprise you. A timid recruit proves steady under shell fire. A boyish farmhand becomes expert at field repairs. A former school teacher tells stories at night so beautifully that even the hardest men listen. While reveals and distorts in the same motion, at some point, though you could not name the day, you stop counting how long you have been at the front in months and begin feeling it in layers instead. The first winter, the gas spring, the year of the deep dugout, the summer of bad rations, the autumn when everyone seemed to cough. The war is no longer a single event. It is climate. And because it is climate, the mind protects itself in curious ways. Large questions fall away, politics narrows, the fate of empires becomes less immediate than dry socks. Victory becomes harder to imagine than surviving Tuesday. This is not moral failure. It is scale. A man can only hold so much at once. The trench teaches reduction. Eat when food arrives, sleep when sleep appears. Keep the rifle serviceable. Keep your feet from rotting. Watch the weather. Watch the wire. Watch the man beside you if he looks too tired. When hope does come, it tends to come disguised as detail. A relief draft arriving on time. Fresh boards for the dugout floor. Rumors of leave. A parcel from home containing actual coffee. A chaplain who speaks without empty grandeur. A lieutenant who knows enough not to waste men. A clear night after days of rain. These are not the hopes of 1914. They are smaller, wiser hopes, and therefore more durable. Even leave, when granted, is not simple. Men who return from a short visit home often come back altered, and not always for the better. Civilian streets seem too bright, too quick, too full of ordinary concerns that no longer fit easily into the frontline mind. Families want stories. Sweethearts want reassurance. Parents want the son they sent away. Instead, they receive someone quieter, older around the eyes, more likely to listen than to speak. Then after a few days or a week, perhaps 2, the man goes back to the trench carrying the ache of 2 worlds instead of 1. You begin to suspect that the war is changing not only where you live, but what kind of home is possible afterward. That suspicion is not yet a thought you can fully unfold. It remains a pressure in the chest, a sense that the road back, whenever it opens, will not lead to exactly the same door. So you do what the trench has trained you to do. You continue. You place one routine after another, one day after another, one season after another, and let endurance itself become the bridge. And because this is a history for sleep, not for alarm, the trench reveals another truth as the months go on. Even hardship develops a rhythm gentle enough to carry a tired mind. The routine is harsh, but it is still a routine, and routine has a way of dulling sharp edges. Some mornings begin with the quiet knock of a mess tin against a timber post. Some begin with the shuffle of a relief sentry coming down from the parapet, his face gray with cold and dawn. Some begin with nothing more dramatic than a drop of water falling from the dugout roof onto your sleeve. Then another, until you realize the rain has started again and will likely not stop until evening. You wake into these differences as a civilian might wake into weather. That is how thoroughly the trench takes hold. Danger remains. Yes, but the body learns to sort danger from background. It learns to conserve itself. You learn, for instance, that there are ways to keep a little warmth, even in a place determined to strip warmth away. A scarf wrapped high before dawn, newspaper stuffed in boots, a mug kept inside the coat for a few minutes before drinking so the metal does not shock the mouth, hands tucked under armpits during long waits, a blanket shared shoulder to shoulder in the dugout, while no one comments on it. You learn where the trench sounds change, where the duckboards creak loudest, which bend traps the wind, which recess keeps a little dryness after rain, which plank shelf is strong enough for a lamp, which man snores, which man talks in his sleep, which man wakes instantly at shell fire, and which has to be shaken by a collar. These details accumulate until the line, miserable as it is, begins to feel knowable. Not safe exactly, never fully safe, but mapped by the body. By 1915 and then 1916. 3. To go on your sector have grown deeper and more elaborate than the hurried shelters of the early months. Timber braces hold the earth back. Steps descend farther than they once did. In some places there are bunks rough but usable. In others, shelves hacked from scavenged boards. In others, a bit of wire strung between nails where socks or gloves can dry if the air allows. There are sectors where a small lamp burns with surprising steadiness. In a few particularly well-built shelters, there are even hints of insulation, a layer between the men and the wet earth that feels almost luxurious by comparison with the open trench above. When shelling is distant, men settle into these underground rooms with a gratitude that would have been hard to explain in peacetime. Someone mends a torn cuff, someone rewinds putties, someone stares at a letter so long it seems less reading than remembering. Someone heats water and measures tea leaves with the seriousness of a chemist. Someone loosens boots and rubs sore feet while pretending not to wince. This, too, is part of survival, not only enduring the great blows, but managing the constant abrasion of small discomforts before they become larger miseries. No one says this out loud, but the trench rewards men who care for their routines. The man who dries his feet when he can. The man who checks a strap before sleep. The man who keeps his spoon, his gloves, his cup, his matches, his knife, each in the place his hand expects to find it in darkness. The man who does not waste motion. The man who sits when sitting is possible and sleeps when sleeping is possible because the war will not wait for a better time. Sometimes the line grows so quiet that the day seems almost suspended. Rain falls softly on sandbags. A sentry coughs. From somewhere 2 bays down comes the scrape of a shovel tidying a wall. A pigeon flutters out of a ruined tree beyond the trench and disappears into mist. Men speak in low voices because the low voice has become natural. Even laughter, when it comes downward, as though no one wishes to disturb the fragile agreement that this hour will remain uneventful. In such moments, the trench can feel less like the edge of battle than like an exhausted village made of mud and timber, one with very poor drainage, very poor food, and a murderous horizon, but still a village of sorts. There is a cook, there is a barber when someone takes the role. There is the man who can repair a buckle, the man who can write in a neat hand, the man who can imitate a particular officer so perfectly that everyone has to bite their sleeves to keep from laughing too loudly. Human beings make societies wherever they are trapped long enough. Even here. By night, the line changes character again. Lamps are hooded. Orders grow quieter. The trench smells stronger after dark, as if damp earth breathes more deeply when the sun is gone. Patrols go out. Listening posts are manned. Men on duty stand in the narrow seam between wakefulness and dreaming, staring into a blackness where every tuft of wire can become a figure. Then duty ends, and another man takes the rifle, and another, and another. The war moves forward on tired bodies, relieving other tired bodies. And when your turn is over, when you climb back down to the dugout bench or narrow bunk, there is often one small, almost tender sensation that returns again and again. The relief of taking weight off your feet. Boots still on perhaps, belt loosened perhaps, helmet beside you, the body settling by inches, the knowledge that for the next hour, or two if luck is generous, someone else is watching. That feeling matters. It is one of the hidden pockets of calm around which sleep content is built. A dangerous world outside, a cramped shelter within, the body yielding for a little while, the mind learning, despite everything, how to soften. So the trench becomes not just a place of horror, but a place of repetition. Repetition in weather, repetition in hunger, repetition in work, repetition in those tiny returns to shelter after exposure. And repetition, though bleak, is also hypnotic. It smooths days together. It makes time less a chain of events than a slow current passing under the boards beneath your boots. There are also the days between the named events, and in some ways, they shape you most. A day carrying duckboards from one muddy stack to another, while artillery mutters far away. A day of cleaning the same rifle twice, because there's little else to control. A day of waiting for soup that arrives late and thin, then eating it gratefully because warmth counts for more than flavor now. A day when the sky stays low and white from dawn to dusk, and every man in the trench seems made of the same color as the weather. The food tells its own slow story. Early abundance, such as it was, has long since thinned. Bread grows darker, rougher, less generous. Sausage becomes rare enough to be remarked upon. Stew is judged not by taste, but by whether it holds any real substance at the bottom. Coffee remains mostly memory disguised as a hot drink. Men serve of crumbs. They tuck away a heel of bread for later. They scrape tins more carefully than dignity once allowed. And yet meals still punctuate the day with a kind of rough mercy. Hands around a warm container. Steam on a cold morning. The small clink of spoons. Men crouched on ammunition boxes or steps. Shoulders rounded inward, eating in silence that is not unhappy so much as protective. One mouthful, then another. The body rejoined to itself by heat and salt. Sleep, too, changes over time. At first, it is reluctant and easily broken, always climbing back toward waking at the least sound. Later, it becomes more practical. You sleep because the body insists. You sleep under shellfire when you can, under snoring, under dripping water, under a comrade's muttered dream. The sleep is shallow, yes, but also astonishing in its ability to arrive wherever there is. A board, a wall, a coat rolled under the neck. In VAR, sleep lowers its standards and becomes all the more precious for it. When you are lucky enough to come off watch in the hour before dawn and descend once more into the dugout, there is a peculiar sweetness in the darkness there. The lamp turned low, helmets arranged along one wall, the breathing of men who, for a little while, are nowhere else. You ease yourself down, adjust the weight of your shoulders, fold one arm under the blanket, listen to the muffled distant guns becoming almost like weather beyond a far hill. Then, sometimes, sleep comes quickly, not because the world is kind, but because your body can no longer refuse its own need. Now and then, on truly quiet days, memory drifts in without warning. Not grand memory, not the polished memory of speeches and parades. Small things, the pattern of frost on a family window, a dog scratching at a door, the smell of wet hay in late summer, the sound made by a chair being pulled across a kitchen floor. These memories can arrive so vividly that for a second, the trench becomes transparent and another life shows through it. You do not hold those moments very long. If you hold them too tightly, they become painful. Better to let them pass through. Better to let them soften the day and then go. By 1917, the younger replacements look impossibly fresh when they first arrive. Their uniforms still carry the stiffness of stores rather than the sag of weather. Their faces are not yet schooled into trench expressions. They ask questions in full voice. They still glance upward too often. The older men do not mock them much. Everyone remembers being new. Instead, there is a quiet transfer of knowledge. Keep your feet dry when you can. Never set anything down unless you will remember where. Sleep before you think you need to. Do not make yourself tall where the enemy expects a silhouette. Listen more than you speak. If the line is quiet, enjoy the quiet without trusting it. These lessons are passed along almost casually, in the same tone used to ask for a match or pass a cup. But beneath that tone lies an entire philosophy of survival. Nothing heroic, nothing loud, just ways of remaining present in a place built to wear human beings away. And little by little, you become one of the men who passes such lessons on. A newer soldier sits beside you one evening, hands reddened from cold, trying to hide the fact that he cannot stop trembling after a nearby burst of shell fire. You say very little, just enough, that the first weeks are the worst. That fear changes shape, that one learns the sounds, that the body settles. You offer him your tin cup while the tea is still warm. He nods with a seriousness that belongs to the very young and the very tired. It is not a dramatic scene. Most of the important things in war are not. Yet something passes there from one life to another. This is why the long middle matters. The war is not only made of offensives and retreats. It is made of men enduring the ordinary hours between them. It is made of damp socks near a dugout lamp, of a pencil carefully sharpened with a knife, of mud, drying and then becoming mud again, of one season yielding to another over the same wounded ground. And because those hours repeat, and because they repeat in a low register, they begin to lull, even as they grieve. As when 1917 gives way to 1918, rumors begin to move along the line with unusual force. Russia is out. Troops can be shifted west. A blow may yet be struck before the full weight of American strength arrives. New tactics are whispered about. Not the old method of throwing bodies against wire, but infiltration, speed, localized, surprise. Small units slipping through weak points, rather than announcing themselves to the whole horizon. For the first time in years, hope appears not as celebration, but as tension, a tautness, an intake of breath. Men who had stopped imagining an end begin to imagine one again, and that itself is dangerous, because hope can sharpen wakefulness. So let the sharpened edge remain gentle here. Let it arrive like a distant change in weather, rather than a trumpet. You are selected for training with an assault unit, because you have lasted, because you move well enough, because war has worn you down without quite breaking you. The training is different from the old drill ground certainty of 1914. It is practical, close, unsentimental, grenades, lighter, automatic weapons, quick movement, communication by gesture, the art of passing around resistance rather than battering into it. Officers speak in lower voices. Non-commissioned men correct details over and over. There is less romance now and more method, and with the training comes better food. For a while, a little more meat in the stew, real coffee once or twice, fresh bread appearing, as if from another universe. Your body notices before your mind does. Warmth returns to your limbs. Your cheeks seem less hollow. Sleep, where it can be found, becomes heavier. Still, the closer the coming offensive draws, the harder sleep becomes in another sense. At night, men check and recheck gear. Straps are adjusted. Extra ammunition is counted. Notes are written home, and not always finished. The dugout hums with restraint. No one wants to spend words carelessly. Too many thoughts feel like luxuries. You lie awake the night before the attack and let memory move through you in a slow procession. The barracks at dawn in 1914, the train rolling west, the first man you dragged to cover, the autumn rain at the Marne, the first dugout, the smell of gas mask rubber, the Christmas singing, the flare over the wire, the faces of men who lasted 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. The strange truth that you are still here. Outside, artillery is being positioned, ammunition stacked, watches synchronized, entire chains of command leaning toward a single morning. When the bombardment begins, it does not have the loose anger of ordinary shelling. It has the dense, timed violence of preparation, hundreds, then thousands of guns, short, concentrated, deliberate, high explosive, smoke, gas shells in measured use. The air itself feels struck out of shape. Even deep in a dugout, dust shakes loose from the roof timbers and settles on shoulders, helmets, hair. Men sit with masks ready, faces unreadable in the half-light. You do not think about glory. You think about straps, about water, about whether your boots will hold, about whether the man beside you is steady, about whether your own hands look steady enough. Then the signal, then the movement upward, then the fire step, then the parapet, then the crossing. You go over not with the old parade ground rush, but in a crouched, purposeful flow. Smoke and dust hang across the battered field. Engineers have marked passages through wire. Men move in groups, not lines. Strong points are bypassed where possible, isolated where necessary. Training takes over, but more smoothly now than in your first battle years ago. Then you had been shocked into action. Now action arrives as something already integrated, like the body reaching for balance. The first trench taken is chaos at close range, but not for long. Defenders stunned by shell fire, short bursts, grenades into corners, men shouting to one another in clipped, practical words. There is no theatrical quality to it, only the ugly efficiency of people doing what they have been prepared to do. And then, astonishingly, movement continues forward again, past positions that would once have required days of blood to reach, through ground long frozen by stalemate. The sensation of advance after years of standing still is almost dreamlike. Villages abandoned, gun positions overrun, roads newly open. By the end of the day, you have moved farther than the front had shifted in months, perhaps longer. That night, inside a captured shelter on the far side of ground once untouchable, you sit with your back against an unfamiliar wall and feel something close to wonder. Could it really change? Could the war, which had settled over the world like weather, actually be moved? Men around you do not cheer much. They are too tired. But in their tiredness there is a current you have not felt in years. Momentum, possibility, the forbidden sweetness of imagining an end. You stretch out where you can and close your eyes. Outside, guns still sound in the distance, but more distant now. Your body, after a day of violent motion, begins to release itself, inch by inch. Shoulders unclench, yaw softens, the rough boards beneath you feel almost soft. Safety, even temporary safety, can be found in the strangest places. The offensive continues, day after day, then week after week. At first, the line keeps bending in your favor. Maps must be redrawn. Prisoners are taken in larger numbers. Officers speak carefully. But the old confidence, muted and older now, starts to flicker. Yet law punishes acceleration too. The farther you move, the more stretched everything becomes. Artillery lags. Supply columns broke down. Roads choke. Horses tire. Ammunition runs low. Water becomes harder to move forward than hope. Men who began the offensive well fed enough now feel the old hunger returning, this time sharpened by the memory of brief abundance. Countryside offers little. It has been fought over before, harvested thin, broken by years. Wells are fouled or empty, buildings stand gutted, orchards are splintered, no great untouched world waits behind the enemy line. Only another exhausted landscape. And the enemy does not dissolve. He falls back, he regroups, he hardens. New tanks appear in greater number. Aircraft circle, fresh troops are spoken of. Then seen, Americans, not just a rumor now, but a scale of reinforcement that alters even private conversations. You hear the number of new arrivals, repeated in different forms, always larger the next time. Gradually, the offensive loses its forward glide. What had been movement becomes effort. What had been opportunity becomes cost. Villages taken in the morning are shelled by afternoon. Ground won with ingenuity must be held with bodies. The sharp edge of the assault unit dulls with casualties. Exhaustion, and the simple fact that no one can remain at peak intensity forever. One evening you sit in the ruin of a farmhouse with a few others, while rain taps through holes in the roof. Bread is divided. A canteen goes around. Someone says you have outrun the guns. Someone else says the enemy now has more than enough of his own. No one argues. It is the kind of truth that arrives by feeling before it is officially admitted. Then comes deeper hunger. The blockade that was once a topic in letters becomes something lived in muscle and thought. Rations shrink again, bread changes in texture and taste until it feels like an insult wrapped in crust. Meat becomes occasional, then rare. Soup grows thinner. Your belt is tightened another notch. Faces in polished metal or still water look older than their years. Then illness, a wave of influenza moving not with shells or drums, but with coughs, heat, and sudden weakness. Men who had stood through bombardments now lie under blankets shaking. Aid stations fill. Voices go hoarse. Whole sections of the line seem to breathe poorly. You fall ill yourself and pass days in fever, where time loses all shape. The war recedes to a distant pounding. Dreams mix with memory. The ceiling above you becomes the sky above the trench, then the roof of your family home, then only brightness. When you come back to yourself, thinner and emptied out, the world has changed another degree. By late summer, retreat is no longer a possibility whispered about by pessimists. It is a reality felt in orders, maps, and road traffic. The front is being pulled back. Ground taken with such effort is being yielded. Rear guards fight. Bridges are prepared. Depots are stripped or abandoned. The old confidence of 1914 is not even a memory now. It belongs to another species of man. Your company shrinks visibly. Names vanish from the roll and are replaced too slowly or by boys too young. Men too old or men too worn to offer what the line now demands. Experience becomes a currency more valuable than ranked. Go on. You are given responsibility not because anyone has noticed greatness in you, but because you remain, and remaining has become rare. The retreat eastward has a stripped, unreal quality. Roads crowded with troops, guns, wagons. Refugees, villages pass through in silence. Rain on helmets, mud on wheels. No speeches, no songs. Only a continual movement away from what could not be held. In ruined churches, empty schools, shattered barns, men sleep where they can, waking still unsure whether the next order will be to stand, dig, run, or surrender another mile. Rumors arrive faster than truth. Governments changing. Power shifting in Berlin. Kaiser perhaps leaving. Naval mutiny. Peace feelers, revolution. All of it reaches the front in pieces. too jagged to fit together. Then one cold morning in November, word moves down the line that the guns may fall silent. Not an hour from now, not after one more push. Soon, perhaps today. No one knows how to receive this, if a war lasts long enough. Its end becomes as difficult to picture as its beginning once was. You stand with the others, listening to an officer read terms, in a voice that tries to be formal and cannot quite hide relief. 11 o'clock, armistice. The fighting is to cease. And when the appointed time comes, the strange thing is not the cheering. There is very little cheering. The strange thing is the silence. After years in which the horizon has spoken in guns almost every day, silence feels unnatural, as if the world itself has paused to listen to its own emptiness. Men look upward. Men look across the fields. Men sit down because they no longer know what standing is for. Some laugh once and stop. Some smoke. Some cry without display. Most simply absorb the quiet. The war is over, and yet nothing is finished. Home is still far away. The country you left is not the country to which you return. The self you left behind in 1914 is nowhere waiting for you. Still, the road east opens, and with it comes a different kind of endurance. The march back into Germany is slow, uneven, and strangely intimate. Units dissolve and reform. Rail lines work in fragments. Food remains scarce. Discipline softens, not into chaos everywhere, but into fatigue so universal that formal authority becomes secondary to shared habit. Men stay together as long as it makes sense, then peel away when a road bends toward a hometown, a district, a remembered valley. At the border, some weep, some kneel, some simply stare at the familiar ground and seem unable to step onto it for a moment, because the distance crossed in years is greater than the distance marked on any map. That first night, back on German soil, you sleep in a barn, high under your back, timbers above, a faint smell of animals and dry dust, snow beginning outside in small soft flakes that make no military sound at all. For the first time in years, there is no sentry call you expect to hear, no shelling to measure unconsciously, no enemy trench 80 yards away. You lie there among other returned men and feel your body hesitate, as if it does not trust peace yet. Then, inch by inch, something loosens. Your breathing deepens. Your shoulders release. The old alertness, which trench life trained into every nerve, recedes a little. Not forever, not even for the whole night, but enough. The barn becomes a haven. The snow outside becomes a blanket over the world, and the silence, this time, no longer feels empty. It feels merciful. The road home continues through a Germany in confusion. Flags different from the ones you marched under now hang in some places. Angry meetings form in town squares. Food riots are spoken of. Workers' councils, political clubs, men in uniforms that no longer mean exactly what they meant. Everywhere there is transition, argument, uncertainty. Yet villages still bake bread when they can. Wells are still drawn from. Church bells still ring. Life, reduced and altered, goes on insisting on itself. By the time you reach Bavaria, the unit you left the front with has become only a handful of men traveling the same roads by habit and companionship. One by one they leave for side lanes, cart tracks, neighboring towns. Farewells are brief. A hand on the shoulder, a nod, shared years compressing into almost no words because the words were used up elsewhere. Then you are alone, and the strangeness of being alone, after trench walls and dugouts and columns and billets and the constant nearness of other bodies, is its own shock. The countryside seems too open, the silence between footsteps too wide. Even peace can feel exposed when one has learned to survive by belonging to a unit. At last, from the rise of a hill, you see your village. The church tower, The clustered roofs, the fields folded around it. Nothing spectacular, nothing grand, only the shape of a place that once made the whole world feel manageable. For a moment you simply stand there with the pack on your shoulders and let the sight of it work through you. Walking into the village is quieter than leaving it ever was. No parade, no band, no shower of flowers. Too many losses for that. Too much hunger, too much knowledge. People glance up from doorways and windows, and some recognize you at once while others need a second look. A few nod, a few call your name. Mostly, there is the reserved tenderness of a place that has learned caution and joy. Your family's house appears smaller than memory allowed. The paint is worn, the gate hangs slightly crooked. The garden has been made useful rather than pretty. For one suspended moment you are afraid to knock, afraid of who may answer, afraid of who may not. Then the door opens, and your mother stands there, older, thinner, changed by worry and work, but unmistakably herself. The expression that crosses her face contains disbelief, gratitude, grief for others, and relief so sudden it almost looks painful. She says your name as if trying to make sure sound can hold reality. Your father appears behind her, shoulders bent more than before, hands rougher, eyes wet despite his effort to hold them steady. Inside the kitchen, where everything is at once familiar and altered, you sit at the old table and learn the family history of the years you were gone. One brother dead, another missing, presumed gone, one returned wounded, short hedges, long winters, work done by women, by old men, by anyone left, letters delayed or lost, money stretched, chickens kept, potatoes guarded, small survivals added together into a life. The war enters the room, not as battlefield memory but as absence. The empty chair, the name not spoken immediately, the pause before bad news is told in a low voice. You had known abstractly that the home front suffered. Now the abstraction wears your family's faces, and there is also Maria, the young woman who was once folded naturally into your vision of the future. She had written for a time, they tell you. Her family moved. The letters stopped. No one knows more. The uncertainty touches something in you that had remained numb. But even this is softer than dread once was. It is the ordinary pain of an ordinary life resuming. And ordinary pain is almost welcome. The first weeks of civilian life are harder than the front had ever prepared you to imagine. Meals arrive at regular times, yet you eat too quickly. Beds are soft, yet sleep breaks apart. A dropped bucket outside can send your pulse into your throat. You walk into a room and map exits before noticing you have done it. At night, you wake with your hand reaching for a rifle that is no longer there. During the day, you work with your father in the carpentry shop and find that your hands remember tools differently than they remember weapons. As if one memory has overlaid another and left the old skill underneath, waiting to be uncovered. Still, routine returns. Not trench routine now, but civilian routine. Wood measured, boards planed, meals shared, boots cleaned for weather instead of inspection, church on Sunday, the market square, neighbors speaking of practical things. This too is a kind of healing, though at first it feels merely repetitive. Then, one spring afternoon, you see Maria in the square, not as a dream, not as an old memory, but in the simple fact of sunlight and cobblestones and a basket in her hands. She has changed. Of course, she has changed. War has touched everyone, even those who never wore boots to the front. Yet, she is there. She turns. She sees you. Time holds still in a way far gentler than battle ever managed. There is no dramatic reunion, only a careful conversation, a walk, the slow discovery that both of you have become other people and might still choose one another anyway. She had waited, longer than many would have. You had imagined her lost to time more than once. The knowledge does not arrive like fireworks. It arrives like warmth entering cold fingers. From there, life does not become perfect. That would be too neat, too false, too unlike history. Instead, it becomes possible, and possibility, after long years of impossibility, is enough. You work, you build, you marry. The ceremony is modest because the whole country is tired and poor. But modest joy can be stronger than loud joy. A ring exchanged, a hand held, a meal shared among those who remain. Together you begin a house of your own from timber, labor, and the stubborn belief that a future can be constructed board by board. At first, the war still lives near the surface. Nightmares come. Silences open in conversation. You meet other veterans in the tavern and sometimes you speak, sometimes not. Often understanding needs no words, a way of turning toward a sudden noise, a pause at a doorway, a look when weather changes. All of it says enough. But seasons continue whether memory wants them to or not. Winter gives way, fields green, work accumulates, a roof must be repaired. A child is born somewhere on your street, then another. Soon your own children arrive, and with them a new rhythm, measured not by shell bursts or stand-to, but by feeding times, illnesses, first steps, Sunday shoes, bedtime stories. You tell them little of the war at first, and when you do speak of it later, you choose the parts that can be held by young ears, not the torn bodies, not the screams and gas masks, not the smell of old trenches in thaw. Instead, you tell them of comradeship, of sharing bread, of stars over frozen ground, of a Christmas song crossing no man's land. Edited truth, perhaps, but not falsehood. You want them to inherit resilience, not the full machinery of your nightmares. Years layer themselves over the old wound. The wound does not vanish, but it becomes part of the body rather than an open break. You can hear a cartwheel crack, later an engine backfire, without dropping instantly. You can sleep more nights than not. You can hold Maria's hand by the fire and let the evening pass without drifting back to a trench wall. This is not forgetting. It is something better and harder. Accommodation. The world outside remains restless. Treaties, politics, inflation, speeches, new movements, new flags, another generation coming of age, beneath shadows your own, could recognize too well. History does not become kind simply because one family has found a small measure of peace. Yet in your house, in the workshop, in the garden, a counter-history grows, one made of repaired chairs, planted beans, mended shutters, children's shoes by the door, evenings of lamplight and quiet talk. As the decades pass, the war settles into story, then memory, then something even softer, like weathered wood holding a shape that once was sharp. The helmet kept on a shelf gathers dust. Medals, if kept at all, remain in a drawer more often than on display. Photographs yellow at the edges. The old comrades become fewer. Some die, some move away, some simply stop speaking of those years because the world has rushed onward and no longer knows how to hear them. Yet the central question of survival changes with time. In 1914, it would have meant not being shot. In 1916, it would have meant living through winter and gas and artillery. In 1918, it would have meant making it home. Now, in later years, survival means something quieter. It means remaining capable of tenderness, of work, of laughter that does not feel borrowed, of loving those who came after without turning them into keepers of your sorrow. On winter evenings, you sit with Maria by the fire and feel the house around you answer the body's old need for shelter in ways the trench never could. Wood settles softly in the walls. Wind moves outside and remains outside. Snow falls without menace. The lamp makes a warm circle on the table. Her breathing beside you is steady, familiar, human in the most peaceful way. Sometimes your thoughts drift backward, but not with the violence they once had. You remember a dawn mist over no man's land. Yes, but now it dissolves into memory of fog over Bavarian fields. You remember the smell of damp timber in a dugout, but it blends into the clean scent of fresh-cut wood in your workshop. The mind, at last, begins to weave old fear into a wider fabric where it no longer rules alone. The weeks after your return do not form a single smooth recovery. They are patchwork. There are mornings when you wake before light with your heart already racing, certain for half a second that the ceiling above you is packed earth and timber rather than plaster and beams. On those mornings, you sit up too quickly, breathing hard until the room arranges itself, and you remember the wardrobe, the washstand, the curtain moving slightly in a normal draft. Your mother hears you once and says nothing when she leaves a cup of warm milk by the door. This silence is its own form of kindness. There are other mornings when the world looks so ordinary, it almost astonishes you. The sound of a cart passing, the weight of a loaf on the kitchen table, a neighbor asking after your health in the lane, wood shavings gathering under your father's bench. Ordinary life is not dramatic enough to command attention, and after war that lack of drama can feel like medicine. At first your body does not know what to do with long quiet. It expects interruption. It listens for the next demand. Yet village life keeps offering small repetitions that ask very little, and therefore heal more than they seem to. Water fetched, tools cleaned, vegetables cut, a fence repaired, a chair seat recaned, a trip to market. Each task occupies the hands just enough to let the mind rest at the edge, rather than forcing it inward. Some afternoons you walk without purpose beyond the village, and let the land speak in the simpler language of weather. A field waiting for seed, a line of poplars moving in the wind, birds lifting from hedges, the road bending toward another farm. No wire, no warning signs, no ruined wagons half sunk in mud, just distances that mean distance and nothing more. When Maria returns to your life, it happens gently. There is no grand reunion written by destiny. There is only one afternoon, then another, then a longer walk, then a conversation that pauses comfortably in places where once you might have rushed to fill the silence. She has changed, so have you. That is what allows something true to begin. With her, you do not need to narrate the war in detail. She reads enough in your pauses, in the way your eyes flick to windows, in the nights when sleep remains light. In return, you begin to notice what she carries from the years you were gone. Shortages, worry, labor, the quiet endurance of those who waited and worked and feared without the structure of the front to tell them what to do next. Her war was not your war, but it was still a war. You start helping your father more steadily. Measurements return to your hands. The weight of a plane feels different from the weight of a rifle, and that difference matters. Boards answer to patience. A crooked joint can be recut. A table leg can be planed truer. Even mistakes in carpentry are merciful compared with mistakes at the front. Wood does not shoot back. It only asks attention. This is another hidden return to safety. Material that yields, work that can be finished, a room improved by your presence rather than wrecked by it. By the time you and Maria begin planning a house of your own, your thoughts have changed texture. They are no longer only backward looking. Now some of them reach ahead. A garden here perhaps, a bench under that window, space enough for children if children come, a shelf for crockery, hooks by the door, a stove that draws well in winter. These are modest dreams. But modest dreams are often the strongest kind after catastrophe. They fit the hand, they ask to be built one board at a time. There are setbacks, of course, bad nights, sharp moods, days when news from the wider country drags old bitterness back to the surface. Inflation, arguments, blame, the heavy language of treaties and losses. Yet even then, the house continues to rise. Maria plants things. Your father advises, your mother folds linen for the future with a practical seriousness that avoids sentiment while honoring it. And each finished wall, each fitted window, each floorboard fastened down becomes a quiet answer to the years when nothing held. So when healing finally begins to feel real, it does not feel grand. It feels domestic. It feels like soup thick enough to satisfy. It feels like a lamp lit in the room you made yourself. It feels like waking in the night and hearing only rain. It feels like reaching across in the dark and finding another warm hand there. Healing, when it finally starts, is not announced. It does not arrive like the armistice, with a date and an hour. It comes sideways, a full night of sleep after many broken ones, a day's work completed without drifting away into old sounds, an evening in which you laugh before realizing you have done it, a walk with Maria where silence feels companionable rather than defensive, the first time you hear rain on the roof and think only of crops. The village too is relearning itself. Young widows move through the streets with a composure made of necessity. Old men sit longer in doorways. Children invent games from fragments of uniforms and bits of useless equipment the returning soldiers brought home without meaning to. The church graveyard acquires new names. The tavern acquires new silences. A whole generation occupies the strange territory between return and replacement, between mourning and continuation. There are practical matters every day, tools to repair, wood to season, accounts to settle in a currency that seems to change value while one is still doing the arithmetic. The country trembles with politics and shortage and argument. But here the immediate world remains stubbornly material. A chair leg broken, a roof beam warped, a window frame needing to be set true. Physical tasks help because they ask the body to do one thing at a time. Plane the board, fit the joint, drive the peg, sweep the floor. Such actions build a ladder back into ordinary time. You and Maria learn one another again, not through speeches, but through repetitions. Walking to church in weather that keeps threatening rain. Peeling potatoes together at the table. Sitting by a lamp while she mends, and you sand a cabinet door smooth. Listening to distant political talk in the village and deciding for one more evening not to let the world larger than your walls enter fully. She does not force your stories from you. You do not demand promises she cannot make. The tenderness between you grows in the space created by mutual patience. When nightmares come, she wakes without fuss, a hand on your shoulder, a low voice, a cup of water, no questions until morning. And sometimes, not even then. You had thought survival would mean toughness forever. Instead, you begin to understand that softness, carefully given and accepted, may be the rarer courage. The first winter in your own house is a quiet triumph. The roof holds, the stove draws properly, wind rattles the shutters, but does not enter. You stack wood by the door and take satisfaction in the plain competence of it. To have built shelter with your own hands after years of crouching in shelters dug by desperation feels almost sacred. Each board answers the trench in its own way. Each fitted beam says here, at least here, the world may be arranged toward peace. Children change the scale of time. A baby does not care for treaties. A toddler does not measure history in offensives. They care about warmth, milk, light, songs, footsteps recognized in the hallway. In their presence, the day is broken into small, immediate tasks. that do not allow endless backward looking. There is exhaustion in parenthood too, of course, but it is a domestic exhaustion, rounded by affection. You rise in the night not for alarm, but for crying. You move through darkness not with a mask in your hands, but with a blanket. As the 1920s unfold, the country sways between hardship and energy. Inflation eats savings, newspaper headlines flare and change. Men gather in corners to argue about republic, monarchy, blame, betrayal, national pride. Some of the old comrades are drawn into movements that promise restoration through certainty. It is easy to understand the appeal of certainty after chaos. You understand it and distrust it all the same. In the workshop, however, wood remains honest, oak is oak, pine is pine. A warped board requires planing, no matter which party claims the future. A table must stand level whether money holds value or not. This honesty of material becomes another refuge. Customers come with practical requests: a cradle, a chest, new shutters, a bench for a church hall. Piece by piece, your labor enters other homes, other ordinary lives, and this too feels like a reply to destruction. Sometimes veterans gather and speak about the war in fragments. Never a full accounting. No one has a full accounting. Instead, there are shards. A road in Belgium, a dugout roof, a horse screaming under shell fire, the smell of gas in wet weather, a friend whose face one can still see if one closes one's eyes. Then the talk turns to taxes, crops, shoes for children, repairs needed before winter. The movement between memory and necessity becomes natural over time. Maria keeps the house in a way that feels both practical and quietly protective. She opens windows on bright days, no matter how cold the room has been, as if stale air itself is not to be trusted. She plants herbs near the door. She insists on clean curtains. She hums while working. These are not grand acts, yet all of them oppose the trench's old dominion of dampness, staleness, and gray. In living with her, you come to see that peace is built as much from habits of care as from political agreements. Then the wider century darkens again. A new rhetoric rises. Old resentments are polished until they look like destiny. Crowds gather around, promises of strength, unity, renewal. Some hear warning in that tone, others hear rescue. You have seen what happens when nations become intoxicated with speed and certainty, and for that reason, the loud confidence of the new age chills you more than it charms you. Your son grows into the age you once were. This alone is enough to haunt you. His shoulders broaden, his voice deepens. He asks questions about your service with a seriousness that is not childish. You answer carefully. You tell him that fear is ordinary, that hunger changes men, that most of survival lies in endurance rather than heroics. You do not try to make him into a disciple of your caution. Young men choose their own relation to history, but you hope the tone of your stories will place some useful hesitation inside him. When war comes again, it does so with terrible familiarity and terrible difference. The newspapers speak faster than the front ever moved in your day. Mechanized columns, aircraft, radios, maps changing in weeks rather than seasons. Yet beneath the speed, the old deceptions hum, promises of quick victory, assurances of righteousness, the intoxication of momentum. You recognize the pattern even when the machinery has changed. This second war enters your family not through your own boots, but through your children's lives, and that may be harder in another way. Your son goes, your daughter waits. Maria listens for post. You, who once stood in trenches, now stand by the gate, watching another generation disappear down the road and understand too well the poverty of farewell. The years that follow are full of losses, ration cards, blackouts, air raid reports, rumors, and the hardening knowledge that disaster is not repeating but expanding. By the time the end comes in 1945, the old map of Germany has been broken more thoroughly than any veteran of 1918 imagined possible. Occupation, division, revelation of crimes on a scale that leaves ordinary words looking thin and ashamed. Whatever remained of the old military romance is buried for good beneath ruins, photographs, and testimony. Your son returns altered, one leg damaged, his youth cut differently than yours was, but cut all the same. You sit with him on evenings when speech comes slowly. Sometimes he asks practical questions. How did you sleep afterward? Did the noise ever leave your head? Did work help? Did marriage help? Did children? Did time? You answer honestly where you can. A little, sometimes. Not in the way people mean, but yes, enough. In answering him, you discover another form of survival. Passing on not glory, not bitterness, but methods of returning. Work when you can, rest when you are able. Do not trust loud certainty. Keep company with those who understand silence. Let ordinary life make demands on you. Allow yourself to be needed for gentle things. Post-war years bring reconstruction once more, but with a different texture. More machinery, new materials, new politics, foreign soldiers on roads where your regiment once marched. Radios giving way to television, children absorbing a world with more noise and more possibility than the one that formed you. You grow older inside this transformation, and age itself becomes a kind of softening lens. The workshop passes gradually into younger hands, though not all at once. You still measure, still advise, still sharpen tools, still step in when a difficult joint requires patience learned over decades. Grandchildren appear, then school books, bicycles, questions. Their history lessons speak of wars that, to them, are chapters. To you, they remain weather systems that move through bone and family and land. One summer, a young historian visits to speak with surviving veterans of the First War. He's respectful, earnest, well-prepared. His notebook is full of dates and divisional names. He asks what trench life was really like, not the strategy. He says, but the feeling. You consider this for a long moment. How to explain years of tension and monotony to someone raised in peace. How to make him understand that war was not only attack and retreat, but waiting in wet clothes, being hungry in company, learning the sound of another man breathing in the dark, finding immense comfort in a spoonful of hot soup, becoming so tired that the line between fear and boredom wore thin. In the end, you tell him that it was mostly mud, waiting, noise, and the effort to remain human. He writes that down, and you know at once that he has recorded the words, but not the weight. Still, perhaps no one can pass on the full weight. Perhaps each generation must take what can be translated and leave the rest where it lies. As decades continue, memory changes not by disappearing, but by losing its sharp hierarchy. The terrifying and the tender sit closer together, a barrage and a sunrise, a dead comrade and a shared cigarette, a gas mask, and the warmth of your first child, asleep against your shoulder years later. The mind does not sort these things as a historian would. It drifts among them. It makes associations. It chooses strange doorways. When Maria's hair turns silver, you notice how the house has become an archive of both your lives, without ever trying to be one. A plate chipped in the same place for 20 years. A chair repaired twice. Curtains changed and changed again. The mark on the wall, where the children's heights were noted. The box of old letters tied with ribbon in a drawer. Your tools worn into the shape of your grip. These things are not grand memorials, yet they hold more truth than monuments often do. In old age, evenings lengthen beautifully. Firelight over wood grain. The small click of knitting needles, a grandchild asleep in the next room, the distant sound of a radio from a neighbor's house, your own breathing, and Maria's rising and falling in easy counterpoint. Sometimes you speak of the past, often you do not. Companionship at this stage needs less language, not more. When she dies, and the chair beside yours stands empty, grief has a quieter sound than battle ever had. No shell can prepare a man for the silence left by one familiar voice. Yet even here the habits of survival return in transformed form. Tea made, fire tended, curtains opened, garden watered. One foot set ahead of another, not from orders now, but from devotion to the life built together. The children visit, the grandchildren help, neighbors bring food, community, which war once reduced to uniform and rank, now appears in casseroles, handshakes, letters, and companionship on market days. The years gather almost without permission. At first you count them against the war. 1 year since coming home. 2, 5, 10. Then one day you realize you are no longer measuring every season against 1914. And that realization feels less like betrayal than release. Children alter time in a house. Their footsteps break the old careful silence. Their questions tug the mind toward the present. Their illnesses, games, scraped knees, and sudden laughter establish a scale more human than the scale of armies. You teach them useful things with your hands more often than with speeches. How to hold a saw, how to sand a board with the grain, how to stack wood so air can move through it, how to listen when weather is changing, how to be kind to animals, how to close a door quietly at night when others are already asleep. The war remains, but increasingly has weather deep below the surface. Some days it rises, most days it does not. A smell of damp earth, a newspaper photograph, a parade in another town, a distant rumble that resembles artillery for one strange second. Then the present returns and asks for practical things. A hinge adjusted, a child carried, a roof tile replaced, potatoes dug before rain. Old comrades appear now and then, sometimes by arrangement, sometimes by chance. A man recognized in the market by the way he limps, another by the peculiar flattening of his vowels, another by the scar under his eye. Conversation with such men takes a different shape from ordinary village talk. It starts with families and work and weather, then drifts toward names neither of you has spoken in years. There are long pauses. No one fears them. Shared knowledge makes speech less urgent as you age. The younger people around you know the war first as history and only second as something that happened inside your body. A teacher asks if you will speak at the school. A local paper prints a remembrance on an anniversary. A historian or two comes looking for testimony. Notebooks open, eager for the grand design. Yet, what you remember most clearly is rarely the grand design. It is the feel of a mug warming your hands in a dugout, the exhaustion after carrying wire, the sound of boots on a duckboard before dawn, the relief of untying laces, the first deep sleep on home soil. These details are not smaller than history. They are history, only at the scale a body can actually live. And perhaps that is one reason the memory softens with age. The mind, no longer tasked with immediate survival, begins to sort what can be kept from what may finally be laid down. The war had once seemed endless. Now it occupies a finite stretch behind you. Long, yes. Shaping, yes. But not the whole road. You live long enough to watch Europe change again. Borders softening in places where once they had cost rivers of blood. The old empires are gone. New unions and arguments replace them. The language of the century shifts. Yet, when you sit in the garden on a mild afternoon, feeling the sun on the back of your hands, history is no longer an engine pulling you. It is a distant landscape through which your life once traveled. That is the final quiet return, not the return of war, not even the return of memory in its sharpest form. only the return of ordinary days, over and over, until they outnumber the extraordinary ones. Morning light on a table, bread cut, shoes by the door, rain on the roof, meaning only rain, a child's question, a season turning, another season after that. These repetitions, humble and untheatrical, are what gently rescue a person from the false grandeur of history. They teach scale again. They let a life settle back into ordinary time. So if the story has carried you a long way tonight, let it return you by these smaller steps, not by a sudden conclusion, but by many gentle ordinary images. A workshop floor swept clean, a kettle on the stove, snow against a window, a hand folded over another hand, the small sigh a house gives after the fire is banked, the breathing of those who are sleeping safely near you. So tonight, as the story thins and stretches and grows quieter, let it do the same for you. Let the sharp edges soften. Let the years blur gently at the margins. Let the soldier walking home become only a figure under falling snow, then a man in a doorway, then a husband by a fire, then only a memory of endurance, and then less than that, just a drifting impression of warmth after cold. You do not need an ending that closes like a locked box. History rarely works that way. Lives do not conclude a neat line under them. They fade outward into children, houses, habits, gestures, old objects on shelves, stories told softly, fields crossed, minuters survived, springs noticed. Even memory does not stop. It only loosens. So loosen now. Feel the bed beneath you, or the blanket over you, or the pillow receiving the full weight of your head. Notice how your jaw can unclench, how your hands can rest, how your shoulders can lower another small inch. The room you are in is quiet in its own way, safe in its own way. And if some far echo of boots, trains, rain, or distant guns remains in the story, let it move farther away with each breath. You are not in the trench, you are not on the march, you are not waiting for dawn stand to. You are only here, warm and still, while an old century slowly dims. Breathing in, breathing out. No orders now, no alarms. Only the steady rhythm that was always yours before history borrowed it for a while. If thoughts continue, let them continue softly. If images arise, let them be pale and slow. A barracks window at dawn, a train passing fields, a train. Rain on sandbags, a lantern in a dugout, snow on a barn roof, a village at the bottom of a hill, a hand held beside a fire. Then let even these drift. There is nothing left to force, nothing to prove, nothing to finish all at once. The story does not close. It recedes, it settles, it becomes part of the dark in the kindest possible way. And somewhere, far behind you now, a war that once filled every horizon grows quiet enough to fade into sleep.